No, I don't think it's that good for taxpayers because the money that they're raising, $5.7 billion, a bit less than that, which is to be spent on infrastructure, I think probably should be borrowed. I mean, rationally, for taxpayers, financially, it would be better to borrow that money. You'd pay less in interest than the dividend foregone from selling the company. I mean, there's about a $50 million difference between what they pay in interest because bond yields are so low.
This is a more broad argument, isn't it, that selling a public asset is a short-term gain for potentially a long-term loss, correct?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, look, the selling the asset, I mean, I'm in favour in general of privatisation. I think it's probably the right thing to do in general. Businesses are, on the whole, better run in private hands than in the government. And also, in the case of Medibank Private, they do have specific plans to reduce costs and to reduce claims that are difficult in government ownership. So really the government, the business will perform better, I think, in private hands. However, I just think, the best way to fund infrastructure is to borrow the money, particularly with bond yields where they are. I mean, the Medibank Private pays a big dividend. It's a successful company. They shouldn't snow us with ideas that, in some way it's financially a better deal than borrowing the money. It's not. That's not the case. And the other thing is that Medibank Private is already pretty well run. I mean, the profit has gone from about 10 million 10 years ago to 232 million today, which is a 36% per annum compound growth rate in profit. Now, it's very hard to do better than that. They might do better than that in future, but, in private hands, but actually, on the whole, they've done pretty well.
Are you concerned that a government that is, as you suggested, not travelling very well economically or in the polls will look to more plans like this, selling more public assets?
Well, they're certainly philosophically aligned towards privatisation. Not that the Labor Party wasn't. I mean, they sold virtually everything. And there wasn't much left for the coalition to sell, to be honest. Medibank Private was one of the few ones, and the Labor Party postured as if it was some sort of ideological thing to hang on to Medibank Private, having sold everything else. So I think that's... And politically, there's a lot of rubbish being talked about it. I think that there are things that the coalition can and will sell. Obviously, Medibank Private's the biggest of those, and they will raise some money. They do have some budget problems to solve. I mean, one of the other points I made is that they're saying that the money won't be used in general revenue. However, the way that they're going to apply it to infrastructure means that it will find its way into general revenue, because what they were going to do with the asset recycling initiative, as they call it, which is what this money is going to be used for, is to give the money to the states in return for when they sell assets. Right, so they're going to recycle the money that the government will make from tax on the state-owned enterprises that will be sold. So once they're sold, they start paying tax. The government gets that money. The federal government gets the money from tax, and they're going to give some of that back to the states. Well, now what they're going to give to the states is not the recycled tax money, but the money from Medibank Private. So, then that really does, in effect, go to general revenue, and that's fine. I mean, the budget's in trouble. They need the money to go into general revenue.
But it's a typically circuitous method in our tax system, I suppose.
Well, it's typically, how can I put it, typical spin, really. Oh, no, it's not going to general revenue. Well, yes, it is. It's a wonderful price. The taxpayers are winners. No, they're not. So there's a lot of nonsense being talked about it, I think.
Right. Just in conclusion, it is bad, in your argument, for the taxpayer, but for the lucky few that did get Medibank shares, it's looking pretty good for the next 12 months at least.
Well, and the main reason for that is because it becomes the 51st largest company on the stock exchange lists, going by the float price, in which case there's a whole lot of index funds that need to buy it, and they couldn't participate in the float. So there's this estimated to be $500 million of unmet index fund demand, and they have to buy it. And so that will support the price. There'll be some unmet demand from retail investors and institutions who didn't get as much as they want, but fundamentally underpinning the price will be index funds.
Right. Alan Kohler, thank you very much.
No worries.